Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week with special guest interviews of interest to the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Direct from the entertainment capital of Northeast Ohio. Your host, Scott Fullerton, chats with some of your favorite entertainers, celebrities, newsmakers, and behind-the-scenes people across the country and around the world who make it all happen. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's start talking.
Friends, we're ready for my next interview. I am so delighted to welcome the incredibly talented Mr. Spencer Day back on the show. Spencer is not only an accomplished singer and songwriter, but also a proud member of our LGBTQ community. He's played venues as diverse as Lincoln Center, the Hollywood Bowl, and London's West End, and appeared all over the place, including my old favorite late-night talk show, Craig Ferguson, and collaborated with some amazing artists, including which I'm excited, Post Modern Jukebox. I'm going to see them in Akron next week, actually. They're playing next week from the time we record this. He has a new album out last year, Broadway by Day. We talked a little bit about the last time we were here, which tells you how far back we've talked since then. But it's an amazing classic Broadway hit from Annie to Evita. So let's go ahead and dive into it with the charming, inspiring, and very handsome Mr. Spencer Day. How we doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm resisting. I'm going to resist all attempts, as you say that, to be like, kind of rolled. I rolled out of bed and haven't showered yet today, but I've had my coffee, so I'm thoroughly jacked. So I'm ready. I'm good.
There you go. I am a coffee fiend, coffeeaholic. In fact, I'm thinking I'll put my own line of coffee out because I'm experimenting with some of the local coffee brewers here. But it's my brew of choice.
Yeah.
So
I'm bougie. I'm not bougie in a lot of areas, but with that, I'm such an addict, but I will still say no to like Circle K.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. If I'm desperate, I'll hit a Sheetz run along the way on the freeway if I really need a quick fix. But other than that, I'm kind of a little particular myself. So I hear you, my friend. No worries on that. Well, welcome back to the show. I mean, we talked forever ago. It was back pre-pandemic. You were conceptualizing the Broadway album. You had most of the songs done. You were getting ready to kind of finish some stuff up. And then, hello, everything locked down for a while. How have you been since then? You doing good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we had just started to make headway with it. We had a record label interested. And then, of course, that was all at the end of 2019. And I came down to Mexico. I was going to do 6 shows here in Mexico City, San Miguel de Allende. And then after that, head to New York, San Francisco, I think Chicago, maybe too, to do some shows to start promoting the new record. And we left to head down to Mexico on March 8th of 2020. So I was here when everything shut down and couldn't travel. And I went to a recording studio in Guadalajara, where I am presently, just to think of a place I could do a concert sana distancia to kind of lift everybody's spirits. And the owner of the studio happened to like my voice. And so now I'm the voice for a public service announcement and a tequila commercial. Yeah. But because of that, I ended up meeting wonderful players who play with some of the best mariachi groups in the country, but also the Philharmonic here, which ended up being this huge blessing because, like everything else, the record deal I was working on fell through. Now everything, of course, is back up and running. But at the time, we were making such good progress with this. And then, like so many other projects, it came grinding to a halt. But thanks to being here accidentally, we were able to finish it. And I think get some pretty, for the Evita track, for example, get a pretty authentic sound directly from the source here. And I've been a huge fan of Mexican music for a long time. So now I live here and have been working and kind of conceptualizing the next project I'm doing, which is kind of a mix of American contemporary jazz and Latin American Mexican music and huapangos and boleros. And so that we still were able to finish it. It's just when I've had people ask me who's playing strings on it, assuming there's a string section in New York City, I inform them that there's killer mariachis, musicians in Guadalajara. But it's been really special to persevere and still put it out there and have it get such a great response against an awful lot of odds, which I know I'm not alone in that. I'm sure you had many of those hurdles. You had to pivot, lots of pivoting.
For a couple of years, yeah. Nobody was working and it was really tough. So I went on hiatus for about a year and a half or so. So I actually brought up one of the questions I had down the line, but we'll go ahead with it now. I mean, you are a bilingual artist and everything. So I was wondering, have you put out any kind of a Spanish language music before, or will it be your first time really paying attention to that and trying to concentrate on using at least the sounds of Mexico and the vibrancy?
Yeah, I've loved it for years, but I actually wasn't. I mean, I could order at a restaurant and stuff like that, but tengo orgullo porque I'm just finishing Harry Potter y la Piedra Filosofal, my first. I mean, it's not Dostoevsky, but whatever. A lot of I'm proud that I've worked my ass off to achieve that, and the thing that's humbling that I like about music but being bilingual is that the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing at all, and that there's always more that you can be doing to achieve. And so I'm very grateful and humbled by the process of doing it. But I've loved Mexican music, especially for a long time, but I think just finally having the time to work on it, this will be my first official project that we're getting to do, which will be a really awesome hybrid. I'm hoping will be a really awesome hybrid of lots of different sounds.
I bet. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to go into the album. This is like your fifth or sixth album, I believe. But for listeners that missed our last interview, give them a real quick recap of what got you into music in the first place.
Yeah, well, I was a really mediocre waiter. So I spilled a plate of pasta pomodoro on a woman in a white Chanel suit. And yeah. So that was around the same time, though, I had started playing in piano bars. I didn't grow up, I think where I grew up in rural Utah and then rural Arizona, where I finished high school. Having the dream of being in entertainment wasn't really done, at least not by anyone that we knew. So I think my goal at that age, I think growing up Mormon, was just to escape and head to California as soon as I did. So I headed out there when I was about 18 or 19. And how was it? 18 and a half. I was 18 and a half and kind of, crashed in various flop houses and slept in my car for a few weeks here and there. I always thought bed bugs were like a myth, like a fantastical creature. Don't let the bed bugs, but I learned that they're real, in fact. And during the process, because I never grew up, I always loved music, and my family was all very musical, and my mom would taught music, but she was so busy working 2 jobs that I didn't really get to study, and was pretty much self-taught. So, but I think maybe the latent desire for it was there inside me, even though I hadn't. I wish I'd started earlier, but a roommate, when I moved to LA, a roommate heard me sing in the shower and bought me my first Casio keyboard. And I just had a lot of people believe in me even when I didn't. And it was so cathartic, I think, being very tortured and struggling a lot with depression back then. The music was this amazing outlet to put it into. And so in between working at coffee shops and recovering from my very uptight upbringing, because ex-Mormons are a lot like an Amish boy in Rumspringa and Fort Lauderdale. So we're ready. it was an all-you-can-eat buffet of debauchery, and I was going back for seconds and third. So because I first landed in San Francisco, and then I thought, okay, let's, we're hanging out with some people, they're making bad decisions. Let's head to LA to try out. Right. Great idea at 20, 21. But right around then is when I stumbled into piano bars and started singing and playing. And I was so nervous at that point. Music, getting up in these loud piano bars. I think people were still smoking inside at that point, which is dating myself a little bit. But it meant everything to me. It was the most important. I probably never did more honest singing because it felt like life or death. But I would sing a song and then immediately afterwards say, like, I'm really sorry. That wasn't very good. I should apologize. And this older gentleman came up, and keep in mind, everyone's an older gentleman when you're 20 or 21. Right. Pretty sure I don't know whether I was legal enough to be in the bar, but he was like, kid, you can't do that. Come back to my place. And so he invited me back, which, it's 2 a.m. in Hollywood, but we just watched clips from the Judy Garland show and of Peggy Lee. And he's like, that's how you got to do it. And for one beautiful year, he was kind of my mentor, and he knew Debbie Reynolds. So we got to use her rehearsal studio in the Valley. And then he passed away. He's the only person I've personally known who's passed away from AIDS. And I didn't even know that he had it at the time, but he and other people, through him, I got to meet Ann Miller and Carol Channing and this old slice of Hollywood. And at that point, it was funny because he had done some work in the industry, but was living with his aunt, who was a 102-year-old Christian Scientist. So I think the assumption from a lot of people who saw us together is that, little did they know I was driving us around town in my 84 Chevy Celebrity and, picking up the tab. But he and other people I met were the first ones who made me feel like that was possible. So by the time I spilled the pasta pomodoro on the woman, I was just starting to work. I was back in San Francisco at a place called the Lush Lounge. Was my first gig, and for about $35 a night and all the frozen margaritas one could want. I started gigging right around the same time, and it's been kind of a very slow and gradual process since then. But I haven't had to spill food on anyone for work in close to 20 years. So that's cool.
Well deserved, my friend. I'm so excited for this album. It's called Broadway by Day. Choices are fantastic. I mean, from classics to standards. We got Chorus Line, King and I, Evita, Jesus Christ Superstar, Hello Dolly, Carousel, Oliver Follies, My Fair Lady, and Annie, just to name a few, if not all of them. Remind everyone what kind of inspired you to create this? I think we talked a little bit about it last time. What made you want to go this route? Because I know you've always done your own original music primarily. What made you decide to do covers?
Well, I think people have asked about it for a while, and there's been various radio stations. So I think it started out, my co-producer and good friend Alex Frank, who we produced it together, and he plays with Jeff Goldblum and Michael Bublé and any other huge number of different acts in Los Angeles. But he had said too that, a lot of people are always saying you should do a record of standards and swinging stuff. And both he and I love Frank Sinatra, but I was like, I'm not going to do it. Just certain covers, when I hear original artists do covers, it just feels kind of lazy to me. And I feel like if you're going to do it, you always want to feel like you can put a stamp on it that feels like I'm hearing something in a way that I haven't already heard 100 times before. And we both grow up. He's the gayest straight man I know. What's that like? He knows way more about musicals. Like, I've never seen a Chorus Line. I saw part of the movie, which he was like, no, this is not good. But he grew up, his dad was a Broadway composer, and so he's so knowledgeable and loves musical theater and knows way more about it than I do. And so we just settled on that, hey, we haven't really heard a lot of these songs, which we still wanted to find songs that were really well known and not just obscure B-sides, from things, but that we hadn't heard any of these really be done in a more straight up swinging jazz style so that really became the impetus. I was like, yeah, these really have legs, and even down here in Mexico, people don't know the whole song, but they've heard Singular Sensation. They know that. So the goal of surprise, I always love where you're, 2 verses into a song, which of course Post Modern Jukebox and a lot of people do too. And then it occurs to you, oh, this song. And for me, that's always how I want it to feel with a cover, is not that you're trying too hard to make it different, but that you're able to put your own mark on it and take it to a place people weren't expecting. And in the process, hopefully reveal how strong the melody and the song are and how versatile they are. And I felt like all these songs had that. But the one disagreement we had is that I was like, we're going to do something from Evita and Jesus Christ Superstar. And he was like, no, Andrew Lloyd Webber, absolutely not. And so now those are 2 of his favorite tracks on it too. So he's really happy. But I'm out of the closet with my thinking Andrew Lloyd Webber writes a hell. It's weird in a hell of a medley, because as you know, in the Broadway world, for whatever reason, it's like there's certain things that are kind of off limits.
Well, you picked my favorite song from Evita, so you have that going for you. I do love that song, and your arrangements, are just fantastic. And you guys worked on these arrangements together. Was this all you, or how did these arrangements come about?
It was a great, because most of my other stuff I've done, I've been kind of a one-man show. So having someone he's so young, but he's so good at working with other singers to bring that performance out of you, because it can be so isolating when you're alone in the booth and you're trying to summon up the energy as if you were in front of a live audience, which of course is what I'm used to. It was so helpful to have him really keeping me, and we did most of the tracks we recorded live. And then some of them, so the majority of what we all did together was incredibly collaborative. And then some of them, like the Evita track, I was like, we had recorded in LA. I was like, okay, I happen to be in Mexico right now, some great flamenco guitars and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go directly to the source for some of this. So we were always on the same page, which was exciting. Like we both knew when a take wasn't good. We both were like, yeah, we can do better with this, or let's leave this here. So it was great to be so much on the same page with someone. So we've already got a whole other part 2 of different Broadway songs we'd love to do if the world's interested in hearing them.
Oh, that's amazing. I would love to hear that. Yeah, I thought it was really great. I didn't think there was a bad song choice. There was a couple that I didn't personally know, because I'm the same way. I love Broadway in general, but I'm not all of the old standards of musicals. I was kind of like Chorus Line and Rent above and go from there. So more the contemporaries and the Evan Hansons and things. But I did have a couple of the contemporaries that I really enjoyed, and it reintroduced me to some of them. That's from that one. So it's kind of fun to get that reinterpretation. So really loved it. You did 2 music videos from Jesus Christ Superstar and from South Pacific. Talk about what made you choose those 2 to do the music videos with.
I don't know how to love him, what to do, how to move him. I've been changed, yes, really changed in these past few days. When I see myself, I seem like someone else. I don't know how to take this. I don't see why he moves me. He's a man, he's just a man. And I've had so many men before, in very many ways. He's just one more. Should I bring him down? Should Should I scream and shout? Should I speak of love? Let my feelings out. I never thought I'd come to this. What's it all about? Don't you think it's rather funny? I should be in this position. I'm the one who's always been so calm, so cool. No lover's fool running every show. He scares me so. Bring him down. Should I scream and shout? Should I speak of love? Let my feelings out. I never thought I'd come to this. What's it all about? Yet if he said he loved me, I'd be lost, I'd be frightened. I couldn't cope, just couldn't cope. I'd turn my head, I'd back away. I wouldn't want to know. He scares me so. I love him so, I want him so, I love him so.
Well, the Jesus Christ Superstar, Harrison, who I got to work with on that in LA, had an idea. He just heard about my upbringing, and I believe it's very possible to be spiritual, even if you're not religious or don't even necessarily believe anything supernatural. I think spirituality is such a personal journey, and I think a lot of people are really cut off from that because they associate the search for that with a lot of trauma from depending on which organized religion you're a part of, some more than others. And I think trying to love yourself authentically. And so he was really interested in hearing my story and kind of wanted to make it about that. And that in the end, the person that you don't know how to love being yourself, and still maintain your connection to the spiritual world, whatever that means for you, right. Personally. And so that he came up with that, and we were on this old, prop warehouse that had all these old sets in East LA, and they had this amazing Catholic church one, and he was like, I know exactly where to go to film this. And it was great because when I first went in there, my heart kind of sank, because in the way that LA can be, I was like, oh, it just looks like this dingy stuff. He's like, no, wait till I get it lit up. And then you're looking through the lens of what he's seeing, and you're like, it just looks like a painting. So that one, I really let him take the charge with it, just for getting beautiful shots. And then the Bali Ha'i one is all filmed in Mexico. But the amazing thing about this country, which I'm excited to film more, is it's so versatile. You have places that look like Europe, you have alpine forests, deserts, and tropical beaches.
Most people live on a lonely island, lost in the middle of a foggy sea. Most people long for another island, one where they know they would like to be. Bali Ha'i, we'll call you any night. Any day in your heart, you'll hear it call you. Come away, come away. Bali Ha'i will whisper on the wind and the sea. Here am I, your special island. Come to me, come to me. Your own special host, your own special dreams. Bloom on the hillside and shine in the streams. If you try, you'll find me where the sky meets the sea. Here am I, your special island. Come to me, come to me. Bali Ha'i, Bali Ha'i, Bali Ha'i. Someday you'll see me floating in the sunshine, my head peeking out from a low-flying cloud. Hear me call you, singing through the sunshine, sweet and clear as can be. Here am I, come to me. Here am I, come to me, come to me, come to me. If you try, you'll find me where the sky meets the sea. Here am I, your special island. Come to me, come to me. Bali Ha'i, Bali Ha'i, Bali Ha'i. Special hopes, your own special dreams. Bloom on the hillside and shine in the streams. If you try, you'll find me where the sky meets the sea. Here am I, your special island. Come to me, come to me. Bali Ha'i, Bali Ha'i, Bali Ha'i. Come to me.
And it was at the beginning of the pandemic when everything was shut down. So we had these beaches all to ourselves just north of Puerto Vallarta. And the police there, because a lot of people in the States don't know this, but we wore masks. We shut down just like everybody else. It was not just the US this happened to. But since the cops were nice, we're like, okay, as long as you guys are doing it, we'll give you like an hour here. So we just ran out and filmed stuff at the very beginning because we're like, well, I was working on this record. The hard part was, as you know, any music video, you're fully singing out because that's what makes it look real, but you're singing to the track. So it's the pre-recorded as opposed to a live one. And that was hard because we didn't have any speakers. So I was having to try to remember. I'd hold the phone up to my ear and say, okay, here's the rhythm. And all we had at that point was the live tracks we'd started before the pandemic of the vocals. So I had to be guessing how I phrased it and then singing along as you're running along a beach or doing all this stuff. But I'm very proud of it because we just got beautiful shots and we had the luxury of just, filming these very nice police officers who were, because
authentic too. I mean, they were beautiful sites, but they're authentic sites. They're not green screen. They're not kind of, you
No.
can tell the thickness of them. So
A lot of people thought they were. They were like, "Where did you CGI?" I was like, "That's not CGI. That was all shot there." So we had all the footage, and then toward more, with probably a year and a half later, we actually compiled it. We're like, "This is still really good footage."
Nice.
So yeah, it's like.
Let's talk about collaboration for a second. I mean, like I said, you've done a lot of stuff in the past. I think you've worked with Effie before. We talked about the Post Modern Jukebox you did about 3 years ago. But you brought on Dave Koz, who I'm a huge fan of, that I can't believe I haven't gotten the show yet. And you also got to work with Jane Monheit from New York, who's an amazing singer in her own right. Talk about how those came together.
Yeah, well, Effie, actually, funny enough, we were the two that came down during the pandemic, and now she lives down here as well. And I think in the process, she got to meet Scott Bradley, who I'd gotten to work with those guys before the pandemic. So I think you're going to be seeing her probably next week if you're going to the PMJ show in Akron. I think you'll probably
Nice. I did not know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing. But Dave Koz I met when we were record mates on Concord Records, and I got a call out of the blue from a 310 number and picked up and said, "Hey, this is Dave Koz." And I was like, "Well, I know who you are," but in my head, I'm thinking, "How did you get my number?" Not in a bad way. I wasn't bummed out that he got my number.
Sure.
And he's like, "Your record's great, man." And he's been an amazing supporter of mine because he got in the industry when it was there was a very different way of getting artists and promoting it out. And it's definitely like the Wild West now. It's, and I think he's just been an amazing supporter during what's been a very challenging time in the industry for most of us. I've gotten to know him for years, so I was really honored that he would be on it. And Jane as well. I've been a huge fan of hers for forever, and so I was. I'm pretty happy. There's a lot of great people playing on the record overall. I think for once again all the challenges we had, I didn't think either of them would say yes, so it was cool.
I love that. I love Dave. I have an origin story with him, kind of, because him and I are close to the same age. And I was, believe it or not, a waiter back in Oxnard, California. And his mom and dad would come to my restaurant a lot. And they introduced me to Dave once, and he doesn't remember any of this, I'm sure. But they introduced me, and then I went and saw him when he was first playing at the Moonlight Club on Van Nuys Boulevard in Encino. And so I've been a fan from way back in the day when like you said, it was a totally different thing back in making music those days. So yeah. I think he's an amazing artist.
He is, and he's a very generous person. And I think him realizing the good fortune he has in a way that is really inspiring for me, and I hope I can be the same. He's always wanting to share that and pass that along. He's always like hooking people up and saying, "You should know this person," or "These people should." He's consistently one of the most gracious and grateful people I know in terms of his position and the good fortune that he's had. And I think knowing that and remembering yourself when you're at a period and you're starting out, I'm very grateful. I've had a lot of people believe in me even when I didn't. And I'm forever grateful to him. And of course, Jane's just a badass. So I'm very humbled by just the level of talent I get to be around. And, I feel like the weak link sometimes, but I'm still glad I'm there.
Weak link? No way, my friend. I got to tell you. Talk to me for a second about the role music plays in your LGBTQ identity, if at all. I mean, I read that the Stephen Sondheim song, "The Losing My Mind," kind of brought some emotion to you and everything. Do you let it affect your music at all? Because, I mean, you're just as much mainstream as any other artist. How does your identity as part of the community come into your music at all, if it does?
Oh, I mean, I think as an artist, you living your life in a transparent way. And I think hopefully being part of a group of people who are making it non-issue. Sadly, it seems like, progress is kind of, unfortunately, isn't just all in one direction. And it seems like it's unfortunately become an issue where I was getting very excited at the point that, one of the best memories I had is I just love singing good songs. So if it was written by a composer about a woman, you're an actor when you're a singer. So I enjoy imagining that scenario in the same way that I've never batted an eye if I want to sing The Man I Love or something like that. And I remember I got a review in San Francisco from the Chronicle who's pointing that out, because I think it might have been The Man I Love or some song like, you know, a torch song, but written to a man. But because of the way I was singing it, there were all young straight couples kind of curling up, listening to it in a romantic way. And this reviewer mentioned how cool that was, that I'm just singing about love and you're removing yourself from it, or the fact that there's any kind of gimmick or a big deal. You're just, and I think being able to just sing with sincerity and, you know, to, as they say, love is love, you know, that you're just trying to tap into these human emotions that everyone should be able to relate to. And that's one of the powerful ways that music can be one of the greatest catalysts for change, because it really does cause us to focus on our shared humanity instead of our differences. And so I feel like me living my life apparently and unapologetically, no, I've said apparently, sorry, transparently and unapologetically, it encourages other people to do that, because regardless of whether people get or approve of every decision I make, or whether I get or approve of every decision someone else makes, if they're not hurting themselves or others, and you can see that it's making them a happier person to do it, you being a happier, authentic version of yourself is a contagious effect that means that everyone you encounter will be happier as well. So I think it informs everything I do. But so for me, it's so linked to what I am that I don't even really think about it. And to my credit, I'll say, for all the ways I'm incredibly self-conscious, I never have thought about, like, do I seem gay, or, because I just think I come across as weird. And maybe that's the luxury artists are given, that I'm like, oh, do I seem masked? Do I not seem? And I'm lucky I haven't cared about that even earlier on, because I've been in the industry long enough when it did cost me early opportunities, to now that, you know, for the majority of people, it's kind of like, you know, bring a book, who cares, you know. But I'm happy that I've tried to be a part of that, trying to maintain an authentic identity and letting the causes I support let people know who I am and what I'm about. Because things are so divisive and so ugly. I feel very blessed to be in a profession that is inherently like giving people a big hug and bringing together. And you can do more to further causes you believe in with music than a lot of other things you could do. I mean, I'm a fan of voting, obviously, and protesting and all those things, but music is such an amazing supernatural gift in that way.
Agreed and well said. Yeah, if things keep going this way in the U.S., I'll be joining you in Guadalajara very soon. So we will bunk up. Goodness gracious.
We're
crazy these days.
It's the country will really surprise you, because it's got its very problematic areas, which are well publicized too. But I'm surprised at all the ways that it's still moving ahead forward, and in some ways more than the kind of going in this way, where the U.S. is kind of going a little more handmaidsy.
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we got to start wrapping it up here. Do you have any advice you might give to any aspiring artists? Like you said, it's a whole new world in the music game now, with TikToks and videos and social media and stuff. What do you think would be your biggest strength if you started music again today? And what do you think you'd have the most to learn if you started out?
That is a wonderful question. I think the thing that I still have to learn is how to use social media and make it work for me, as opposed to complaining about all the ways that we know it can be horrible. And I do think in that sense, younger people, in a way, some people might disagree, have a healthier relationship to it, and are learning how to use it in a more, let it work for you instead of you working for it. You know what I mean? And so I'd say that's still the area that I'm struggling with is how to bring it. The nice part I would say that I can offer younger people is, at the same time, I'm in an age where you start to realize you don't want to always be with the cool people. You want to be with your people. And it's way more important to have a smaller but incredibly dedicated fan base who gets who you are and what you do than be like viral for 2 seconds and then forgotten by the next year. So I think staying true to that and cultivating it is one of the most important things. And if I could go back and change anything, that I'd always try to encourage other people who are younger, is to not care so much about what other people think. Because if you allow everyone has an opinion, if you leave yourself open for it. And it's hard because, if you were selling food samples on the street and you were at a farmer's market and someone had samples of soup and you're like, oh, this isn't very good, you would just continue walking on. But the problem with the internet is you're giving away free samples basically. And the people are like, let me tell you what sucked about it. And I think, I got a comment the other day for no reason, just because some people want to burn the world down, that was like, hate you, hate your music, hate your face. And so for me, I'm thinking this is hysterical, because it's just, out of all the things this person could have done with their time, they felt the need to come and tell me that. But younger people are more vulnerable to that. And it's harder. And it's, the internet can bring out a lot of our ugliest traits. So I think taking that with a grain of salt and really not basing what you do solely on what you think the viral likes, because all these forms of media are going to come and go. And what's going to be left over is, was I authentic to myself, or was if you want to shake your ass and that's an authentic on TikTok and that's an authentic expression of your art, great. But if not, you want to be able to look back in 5 and 10 years and not say, I just wasted all this time not being true to myself, chasing likes, because everything is temporary. So the one thing that remains is your relationship to yourself and your art.
That is some great advice, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. Well, let's go ahead. We talked off air when we started that you're kind of in a recharge the batteries mode down here in Mexico. Do you have any hints of any upcoming projects or collaborations that you hope to be working on anytime soon? You can give us a hint at?
Yeah, well, the one that's been my passion project for a while now is called La Frontera, and it's kind of about the relationship between the two countries. A lot of it's instrumental, which is new for me, and it's original music, so this will be a return to that. And then Alex and I are kind of wanting to powwow about our Broadway part 2 section, but I think really focusing on the writing, and I haven't, it was such a creative effort working on the Broadway ones, but I think focusing on original music and how we can have this project be a real hybrid of music from north and south of the border in a way which is still wanting to promote unity. And I think one thing that people have lost steam about is I've been very passionate about rights for migrants and people who don't understand how fixed the immigration system is against them. And I feel like that movement, it's still an ongoing problem. And my compassion for people and realizing there, but for the grace of God, go I, continues to grow. And so I think this project is really, hopefully will be about celebrating that relationship and also sharing slices of life from both sides of the border. You brought these two countries who depend on each other in such a unique way.
Exciting. That is so fantastic. Well, listeners, you got to get out there and pick up Broadway by Day, Spencer's latest album. But you really want to dive into some of the older, like I said, this is like his 5th or 6th album. If you want to hear his original music, check all that out. Let him know the best places to find your music and your website, Spencer.
Sure. We're on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, all that. And then my website is spencerday.com. I'm on the Instagram. I do have a TikTok account, but I never use it. So you won't really you won't find me there. But we're easy to find.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We're not going to wait 4 years to the next time we have you on, but thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
All right, stay on the line. Guys, we'll be back in just a little bit. You're listening to Left of Str8 Show right here in the Left of Str8 Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.